Well, g'day everyone. Today I'm in this amazing location which is called the Werribee Gorge. It's very, very close to my home, so I'm lucky I could get down here as we're in lockdown at the moment. But being within 15 kilometres, I was able to come down here. Now today I'm going to be reviewing this Tamron lens that's been sent to me. It's actually the 18 to 300 millimetre, and it's an APS-C lens. So it's going to be fantastic for travel on a camera like this. This is the A6400. And it has an amazing lens, so you can go from 18mm all the way up to 300mm as well, which is superb. There is a fair bit of extension on the barrel here, but that's fine. It's not a light lens, but if you wanted a lens that does everything that you want, this is perfect for that. And that's the main reason why I think you'd take this away, say for travel or something like that, because it's got that massive range from sort of zoom right the way into very, very close at 300mm. In fact, it probably would also work if you had a high-end, say, A7R4 as well, because you'd be able to crop in and still get decent images from it and have that massive zoom up over 400mm. So it's terrific. It does have stabilisation as well, which is great, and I've done a couple of tests of that. The images we'll have a look at when we get back to the studio shortly, so we'll check them out when we get back there and we can have a look together at the images that we're looking at there. So what I've tried to do, I've tried to grab multiple things. I've tried to grab some birds. Also, we saw a kangaroo or a wallaby, and as well as that, I've done a whole stack of the native flowers that are sort of flowering at the moment here, being that it's springtime. This location is just gorgeous. We're very lucky to have this right next to us at home, so we could come out and at least shoot somewhere like this. So what we'll do now, I'm going to finish with the actual shoot, and then we'll go back to the studio, and then I'll sort of have a look at all the images and we can summarise this lens from there. Okay, so now that I'm back in the studio, I thought that I'd just take you through a little bit about the lens and sort of show you the images that I captured. The images themselves, I've had a quick look before I take you through them, look really terrific. But I thought first what I might do is again just sort of show you how the build quality of the lens is. And it's the typical Tamron build quality, which is very, very long lasting. And I've found that the 28 to 75 particularly that I own still looks as good as the day that I've bought it. The lens does have a lock on it to stop it creeping down, so that's one nice part about this as well. And overall, it feels really nice on the A6000 sort of series cameras. Like I said, it is a little bit heavy, but for what you're getting in the whole zoom range, I think it's terrific. So let me just tell you a little bit about the lens first, the construction of it. So we'll shift over to that. Okay, so let's look at the tech specs for this lens. The focal length is 18 to 300, and if you sort of convert that to full frame equivalent, 35mm, it's 27 to 450mm, so it shows you the amazing reach that this lens has. The maximum aperture is f3.5 to 6.3. Lens construction is 19 elements in 15 groups. The minimum object distance is 0.15 metres. It's 5.9 inches at 18mm and 0.99 at 300, and I'll show you that in a minute. The focusing is ridiculous. Maximum magnification ratio is 1 to 2 at 18 and 1 to 4 at 300. The filter size is 67mm, and that's great because all my other Tamron lenses are also 67. The length is 125.6mm, and the weight is 620 grams, and it has 7 circular diaphragm as well. And it's compatible to Sony FE APS-C mounts. The versatile shooting, it's just crazy. If you're looking at the zoom range, this is a great article that's down here that shows you how far away you are here at 18mm up to 300, and you can see the distance that you can get into whatever you're photographing. So, as a travel zoom, this is awesome, and I think that's one real great benefit of using this. It also does have vibration stabilization as well. So as it will show here, that you can use it with a lot of slower shutter speed, and you'll still have a reasonable image or a much sharper image than if it didn't have one with stabilization. The next thing to look at too is the close focusing of this, and it really is incredible when you look at it. This is how close. Now I did do some flowers like this, so you can see sort of how close you can get up and and get all the details that you like. So it's not a 1-to-1 macro, but it's a 1-to-2. So it's very useful if you're dealing with wanting to have one lens that you can also shoot macro on. So additional features, it has got weather sealing. You can see all the areas in blue here where it's weather sealed, and that's terrific. So, it's dust and moisture weather sealed. It does have that fluorine coating, which protects against dirt, moisture, and fingerprints, etc. It is IAF compatible, and I've shown some of the footage I've taken some of the footage that I'll show you a little bit later. Fast hybrid AF compatible. The autofocus is really very, very good. Apart from when you start to get up to the 300mm and it does start to slow down a little bit. So let's look at the key takeaways. The portability is terrific. I mean, it's a 16.6 times ultra zoom for APS-C Sony cameras, and that's terrific. There was nothing like this before. The macro is 1:2, and like I said, I showed you that a minute ago, but I'll also show you some real world results in a second. The performance does have the stepping motors, and it's very, very fast and reliable. The construction, I've always found them to be really well made, and they do last, with really quite hard usage, which is terrific. And the versatility, leave it on your camera and never have to change lenses. Basically, if you're traveling, you've got that whole range that you could use right the way through. So now let's have a look at some of the images themselves that I took on the day. Okay, so let's have a look at a few of these images that I took on the day. And I wanted to sort of grab a whole range of images where, I'll be looking at, say, photographing close from a distance and things like that. So this is just sort of showing the type of result that you can get in the medium focal length with this. I just saw these flowers that were sitting there, and I wanted to try and just see how much the background blurred away. And so I focused in on the leaves itself. And if you look, I'm sort of focusing, around this area. But the fall off is beautiful. It's actually quite nice. A couple of times I noticed it gets a bit busy, and I'll sort of show you that later on. But these are all straight out of camera, so they've just been taken into Capture One, and this is the results that Capture One have put on the images. So we'll keep going down. This is another lot of flowers that I went nice and close to. I'll show you some of these from a distance fairly soon as well, so you can get an idea about how they look. This was just isolating a single flower here. Now you can see this was about f8, and I wanted to try it around f8, and you can sort of see that it leaves the background a little bit busy here, but once I open the aperture up, that goes away and it looks quite nice. Again, I just want to sort of grab Kerry just walking down the pathway of the park where we're at. Now this is an example of those pinky flowers that I showed you before, and I wanted to use the zoom lens to go right in. So this was at the 18mm, and the next one down I've gone to the 300mm, and it's sort of focused around about here in this area when it's zoomed up. So you can sort of see the type of zoom range that you can get out of this. It's really incredible, actually. It's just so good for so many things. This is another one just of the tree. Just saw the flowers underneath the tree there, just with the gum tree that's sort of sitting through the side here. Again, it's lovely and sharp. If I blow it up, I'm not sure how much YouTube will do to this, but it certainly is lovely and sharp when you look at the grass and everything else that's all there. So it's certainly holding detail quite nicely. Again, this was Kerry. Now, I wanted to again try the focal range. So if you look here, this was at 18mm, and then I zoomed into 300 to get that different perspective. So you can immediately go in and get some nice portrait looks, which is great. Again, if you look down here, I wanted to sort of get these little flowers that were between the plant, the wood that was sort of there. And if we look down, that's just going up to 300mm, and you can see the sort of zoom range that I'm getting here as well. This was another one of the flowers. Now, Kerry was taking some photos of these flowers with her iPhone, trying to get a macro. I just zoomed in, and this is basically the 300mm. It's unbelievable, like how much range you've got. Again, this was just showing the area I wanted to show the zoom range. So this was at 18mm, and then hang on, went the wrong way. This is 18mm here. As I zoom in, this was probably around about 50, 60, and then I went up to 300, as you can see here. And look at the lovely fall off that you've got now due to that, that depth of field with that zoom range. It's beautiful. So being able to sort of go from this all the way up to this is incredible in a single lens that you could use for travel. for travel. And that's one thing that I really adore about this. And if you look overall, it seems to be sharp overall. There doesn't seem to be much of a vignette there at all that I can see. Remember, I just shoot it like I would for real life. So I'm not doing tests of brick walls and things like that. But, I think it's very well controlled, and I'll show things like chromatic aberration a little bit later. But that's, it's terrific. And like I said, it's lovely and sharp, particularly in the centre. Now, if we go here, this was interesting because I wanted to get a shot of just the landscape standing where Kerry was. And the funny thing was I didn't even realise that there was a whole bunch of kangaroos on this hill over the side. And when I shot at 300mm, I didn't even notice them when I shot. I didn't notice it until I got home. And you can see them all through here. So there's a whole pack up here of kangaroos that you can see, which is, it's pretty cool. Let me see. I don't know how this will come up if I zoom up. So there you can see there's one sitting in the grass through there. And there's a whole stack of them coming through here as well. And I think it's worked quite well. This was close-up shot of the flowers, so I'm starting to use it more like a macro. This is nowhere near the amount that you can get closer, as I showed you before, but I just wanted to show you some results that you can get just using it nice and close. I wanted to have a look at sharpness here on the moss that was on the rocks, and so you can sort of see this was at 18mm, and then we went up to 300 just to have a look at how sharp it was at 300mm. But the sharpness of the lens in the center particularly, like I said, I don't know how this will look in YouTube, but the sharpness in the center and stuff, like I said, is terrific. This was another one with some flowers that I wanted to take 2 shots of, more wider, and then just zooming in so you could sort of get an idea about how the zoom range was. Now, this was an interesting one because this shows you the potential of the zoom range of this lens. This tiny little dot where my hand is here is a tower. I think it's a phone tower. Now, if you look at it, that's at 18mm. Now, the next one will be at 300, so it's going to show you the range that you've got on this lens. That is unbelievable when you think that's straight out of camera, and you're getting that type of zoom range on this is nuts. It's terrific. You can hardly even see it there, and then to be able to go to that is just crazy. Again, I wanted to say capture the cliffs on the other side of where we were walking. This was at 18mm, and then I went up and did the 300mm, and you can see it's still nice and sharp. I mean, there's certainly nothing wrong with it at 300mm at all. Let's keep going. Again, you can sort of see here, if we're looking at all these rocks and everything else, like I said, these have had no sharpening or anything put on them at all yet, and it certainly is sharp enough for what I ever want anyway. This was just some ants that I saw on the ground. You wouldn't want them to bite you, that's for sure. But, they were just all crawling over the place. We got over those pretty quickly because they do certainly nip you, that's for sure, because they're quite big. Again, this is where I wanted to show chromatic aberration. This was at 18mm. If you look through it, there's really none that I can see looking at the images. And I did take a few images here that we could look at to see if there's any at all. There might be a fraction of just a little bit of blue, but it's certainly, like I said, there isn't even a lens profile for this now, so it would certainly be much better once it comes, the lens profile is out. But if you move around, the chromatic aberration is really well controlled on this lens, so I certainly wouldn't complain. This was at 300mm, so I shot right through the whole range to sort of get these results. And that's another one at 300. Actually, that wasn't 300. This was at 300. And again, you can sort of see that it's pretty well controlled. Yes, the out of focus area, it's starting to look a bit iffy, but I think that's just because it's out of focus. Again, this was just sort of wanting to show, detail of looking down the river. Down here, you can see that I've focused down here. That's a hell of a drop. It doesn't look it here, but it is an awful drop. And you can see that it looks great. The edges are definitely softer than what the center is. And I'd expect that probably with a lens like this. That was just a zoom, so I'm just showing the zoom range that you can go in from there to 300mm. That's just zooming down here. Let me keep going. This was just a shot of Kerry. I just wanted to sort of grab one of her taking a shot down there. Now, this bird, I wanted to take this now. I'll go down here. This was the original shot that I had. It's a Rosella. And this is a beauty about when you have a lens like this, because you're able to zoom really far in and get, a really good result that you normally wouldn't be able to get, and even handheld because of the stabilization. So basically what I did was I just zoomed right in, and that was the result that I got. And, I'm completely happy with how that looks with, basically for a lens like this type sitting on your camera that you can just take out and go traveling with. It's fantastic to be able to go from that to, from that all the way up to this, which is just beautiful. Let's keep going down. Another one where I wanted to just show how you can, use the isolation to get in reasonably close and isolate the background to give you a nice depth of field. This was more of a starting to get to a macro shot where I got in nice and close. You can sort of see the original images are here. The colours out of this lens are outstanding. It's got the typical Tamron colours that are beautiful. But, it looks gorgeous when you get like that. I mean, look what it's done to the background here. It's just blown it away completely. This was a little bird that was down on some trees. This was at 300 mil. And again, it's just lovely. I think it's being able to isolate the bird like that, because these are tiny, these little birds. But I'm really happy with that result, that came up through here. You can see it's nice and sharp, really. There's even a little fly or something up there that you can see as well. Another one with a cockatoo there. You can see that one. It's just looking down at the tree. That was also at 300 mil. Now, this was interesting because we turned around the corner. Kerry said, look to your left. And I looked to my left, and there was a kangaroo it's actually a rock wallaby, was just staring at us through the bushes, which was really cute. And it was actually eating those little white flowers. And you can see another view of it there. And then we went a little bit further down. It had run off, and it was just looking at us from there as well. It was really cute. Now, this was a focus test. So what I wanted to do here was to see how much it could track Kerry coming in. So I just asked her to walk fairly fast, and she did walk fairly fast towards me, and I just fired the camera away. And I opened the aperture right up here, and basically she just walked towards the camera, and you'll see that she's just coming towards me, and I got every single one in focus. So it's certainly, the autofocus works very good. I didn't take a monitor to get on the, to show the focus with the actual focus points, but I also have grabbed a video that I'll show you in a minute too. So you can see that's, terrific. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Again, I just wanted to show Kerry walking through this beautiful location. And I love the fact that you can, just zoom in and immediately grab close images like this, and it becomes more of a portrait lens. Kerry will hate me showing these, but, it's terrific for that. Again, I wanted to get nice and close to the flowers that are in this area. This was another shot that I liked. We were just walking through here and just looking at the cliffs ahead, and you can sort of see the cliff there, the actual cliff face. Kerry down here, I wanted to again show the actual focal range of this. So that's from 18 mil, and then I zoomed in, and you can see how close I can get, looking from that all the way up to there 300 millimeter. Which is terrific. Again, this was just a spot where I did the introduction talk that was at the beginning of this video. I just wanted to grab Kerry looking around here and then just zoom in just to sort of show, again, what you can do with the focal range that you're dealing with here. This was just a lizard we found on the ground. I had to shoot this very, very quick because they move very fast, but we just stopped. Look, Kerry said again, she's the animal spotter, just said look down, and we could see this little lizard. And, it was beautiful, this little lizard. It was really cute. You can see how sharp the lens actually is. It's terrific. Again, this was a crossing part where you have to use these ropes to climb around, and we used those, and I zoomed into 300 millimeter there as well. Okay, so here I just wanted to check how the focus went, and I'm at about 50 mil here, and you can see the autofocus is tracking Kerry brilliantly just in video, so there's no issue there at all. I just asked her to keep walking towards me, and then even sort of go from side to side. I was just checking to see how focus sort of handled her moving around. Then I went up to 100 mil, and here it's still holding the focus very, very well. I'm hand holding this. The stabilization gives it a good quality. 300 though, it was pretty good until she got near the camera, as you'll see here. So I hope you enjoyed looking at those. Let me know what you think about them in the comments. Like I said, it was just, we've been in lockdown, so I was limited in what I could actually do to show the lens. So I thought I'd take it on a walk around an environment where you probably would want to use something like this. So it'll give you an idea about how it would go in that sort of real life scenario. Overall, just to sum up, I think the lens is terrific. I think even though it is not a light lens, it is quite balanced on this camera, so it doesn't feel like it's too heavy to lug around. But to have that focal range here in the one lens is terrific, because you could just get around with using this. I probably would take a fast lens as well if you wanted to get, into the evening as well. But, apart from that, I think it's great. Look, if you have any questions, leave them down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you so much, Tamron Australia, for sending me this. Unfortunately, I'll have to send it back. Apart from that, guys, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.